The Dig Podcast Series 10, all about real lives, real moments. And we just want to give you, our listener, a heads up that we will be covering some sensitive topics.
That was probably the worst thing it did to me because it turned me into a liar. It turned me into the biggest liar. I swear, if you don't sort yourself out, I am never coming home again. Whenever I had my first drink, which was probably about the age of 14, which was very young, but it was a drink of cider and it lit me up. I can't believe I'm going to do this thing and my children are going to go out to the world and tell people my mother took her own life. And I went to sleep and I woke up the next morning and I went, right, you've two choices here. You can drink and die, or you can ring that man and see, is there any hope? Everybody has a rock bottom. I do believe you have to have your rock bottom. And I reached my rock bottom.
Today on the Dig Podcast, I have a very special guest. So as you all know, this series is real lives, real moments, real topics, real things that affect us all. And it doesn't get much realer than what we're about to talk about today and who I'm about to speak to. So I am speaking to Geraldine Layden, and some of you might already know her from her social media account Serenity10. And when I was doing my research and I was talking to Geraldine, I was thinking, what does Serenity 10 mean? And she was able to tell me quite clearly that the serenity comes from the serenity prayer. So for any of you who pray or any of you who don't pray, you still might know the serenity prayer because it's quite, well known out there as it gives hope to so many people. But it's also known as the alcoholic's prayer, which I didn't know. I've said that prayer myself, but I didn't know that it was specifically known in the alcoholic prayer. So that was really interesting to me, and I could see why there's so much hope in the words. But Geraldine was born on the 10th of the 10th and lives in number 10 and had her last drink on the 10th of April 2014. And that is why she is Serenity 10. So what meaning there is behind that, how powerful that is in itself before we even speak to her. But Geraldine has went from living in complete darkness, fear and anxiety through alcoholism to sharing her experiences with the world through her sobriety. And that's why I was hoping she would say yes to be a guest on the Dig Podcast today. Her aim is to help as many people as possible who are suffering with this horrible disease. And I know myself, you listening, all know someone and the ripple effect that it has. So this is so important. This conversation is so important and different for me to be talking about a topic like this. So I hope Geraldine, I suppose, excuses my maybe lack of knowing the right words to say, but I'm just going to listen and let her tell you guys. But she's also the founder of the Monday Club, which is a group of women that support each other through life's challenges. Whether you're a young mother or living alone, getting older and feeling a little lost, that Monday Club is for you. So I love that she's turning it into something actionable for people. She published her first book called Capture Your Monday. This is a little inspirational book of 52 Monday motivations. Don't we all need that on a Monday morning to help you start your week off more positively? And look, Geraldine speaks all over the country and all over the world, I suppose, because there's Zoom now, so she can literally come right to you to raise awareness of addiction. And, I can't really say much more because I don't want to, and I want Geraldine to talk. So, Geraldine, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Caroline, and thank you for such a lovely introduction.
Well, it's your bio, your intro, your life, your story. And I told you when I reached out, it's real lives, real stories. And what a life we all lead, but what a life you have led as well. And I don't know all the details. I don't claim to. Can you take us back to the start when things started for you? Or
yeah, of course. And I think for everybody, an alcoholic maybe means something different, and unless you are alcoholic, you'll never understand another alcoholic, if you know what I mean. I just want to say that first of all, because people do think it's just a matter of why can't it stop, and why can't it stop for me? But it's so powerful, as you'll know as I share my story. But a lot of people think you have to have had a really troubled childhood, or that something really bad has happened in your life that you're trying to mask or cover up. And going back to my childhood, I had a lovely childhood. I'm one of 5 girls, My mummy and daddy still living to this day. We were like brought up in the countryside, and had just a really good. And we were chatting about earlier, Caroline. Mummy was there all the time, so she walked you to school. You came up to school, you had your tea and toast. So my childhood was, lovely. We didn't have a lot, but a lot of people didn't have a lot, and there was nothing really there. But it was probably getting into my teenage years that I kind of seen changes, and there was different things that would have happened that I wouldn't have related. I wouldn't have understood what they were. Looking back now, I know exactly. It was all traits of becoming addicted and alcoholism.
Like what?
So, like pulling back. So I would have been at school when you're kind of early teenage years at school. Primary school seemed to be fine, but I had this sense of feeling so lost at big school, is what they called it, and I had friends. I was popular. It wasn't as if I was a wee wallflower or whatever, but I used to sit looking out that window and think, I would love to see Mummy and Daddy driving by. And I'm sure they never would believe that if they heard that story now. I just felt that I didn't belong. I always felt that I didn't belong. And I would have played up quite a bit. So if one of my sisters had a friend over, I had to get in the middle of that, and I had to, do something to spoil that. I don't know what maybe they'd call it nowadays. I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was just,
a bad rip.
A bad rip. Yeah. So you could see those wee traits there. And I remember whenever I started going out with boys and stuff like that as well, the confidence wise, and that is where, when the alcohol came in, whenever I had my first drink, which was probably about the age of 14, which was very young, but it was a drink of cider, and it was down a wee road waiting to go into a disco, and it lit me up. This first swallow of this cider, and I could feel it going down my throat, and everything was happening, and I gained this little bit of confidence. So that was the start of it changing me and kind of making me that more confident person. And as that went on throughout my teenage years, I couldn't have walked into a bar. Like, my husband now didn't see me sober for 3 months. Like, why did he stay when you think about it? And that is going back then. So for 3 months, he never actually saw me without a drink, for the first 3 months, because I couldn't have talked to him without alcohol. Now, I didn't think I had a problem then, and it had went on many years before I realised that there was a problem. So that's the little traits that I'm talking about. Behavioural traits probably is what I would say, what it did for me.
And so that was through the teenage years, and obviously you met your husband then in teenage years, was it?
Yeah, met him in teenage years. In my earlier teenage years, I would say to you now, they were very dark days. They weren't good. Nothing to do with my home life, nothing to do with that at all, but it was to do with a relationship, and it was a really toxic relationship, and I was so young and really didn't understand what was going on. And that relationship went on for years, and I used to, you talk about manifesting, because I did manifest, Patty. I used to pray that I would get out of that relationship, have the courage to be out of that relationship, that I would actually meet someone that would value me and that would, take me out places and care for me, and just somebody good, a good person is what I used to pray for. But I had several years with that other person before I actually got that. So I met Patty at 19.
When you met him at 19, then you said that 3 month period when he didn't see you without alcohol. So then when did alcohol start to become a problem in your relationship?
That was normal, because everybody, in my eyes, everybody drank. Do you know what I mean? And in those days, I went out and I would have got drunk. So it wasn't a matter of now, when I watch my own children and stuff, and they can go out for a couple of cocktails or whatever, and, and come home and everybody's okay. Whereas, it sounds awful, but going back to what Melissa's before, I met Patty when I was 18, I fell down the Glenavon stairs several times, And even back then, I couldn't understand how somebody would leave half a glass of drink. So the way somebody would finish, maybe it could be a glass of wine or whatever it is, and leave a wee tiny bit in it. I never, and to this day, I can't understand how anybody could do that, because I could never leave anything. So whenever I got a problem, is later on, because obviously I wasn't always alcoholic, but I do believe I was always going to become alcoholic. I do believe that I was born with that trait. I do believe it can be in families, and it is in our family, and both my mummy's side, my daddy's side, although neither of them drink at all. So there's never any alcohol, taken in our house. But there was problems on both sides.
So do you believe, just when you said that there, that you are born an alcoholic? Is that like a...
I believe it.
Yes.
A lot of people mightn't. I'm 100% that was inside, that I was born that way, and it was just a matter of when it was going to come out. Because now that I've done a lot of kind of work on myself and studying and looking back at all those little traits that I said to you, they kind of all link up. And when you're sitting talking to other alcoholics, you would swear they're telling your story from the wee boys and wee girls of 5 and 6 and stuff, So I just think it's something, be it hereditary or be it in the genes, whatever, that you can be born with. Yes, I believe so.
The Dig podcast means so much to us because we're able to help people with actionable advice, both in the world of work and life. And so many people are listening, thousands of downloads, but some people still haven't hit that follow button or subscribe. I'm guilty of it too. I listen to podcasts and I actually haven't taken that action. But I'm asking you today, if you do love the podcast and you want to keep seeing more guests, if you could hit follow on Spotify or Apple, or if you watch on YouTube, if you hit that subscribe button, it helps the podcast grow. And in turn, I can continue to have brilliant guests that bring you great advice each week. And how did it start then to really affect your normal day-to-day life, Geraldine?
Well, that wasn't to my 40s.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So during that time of 20 to 40, what was going on then?
20s were lovely. Loved my 20s and got married and had the children, like with 3 lovely children. And even going back then, I would have been a daily drinker. So that thing of having your glass of wine every night with your dinner, that's what we did, Well, I want to say we did. Paddy mightn't have did it, but that's what I did. Which was fine because it was a glass of wine and that was all right. But that goes on. It's not normal to drink every day, And even though all my friends were doing that in their lovely houses as well, because it really is it's a bit of a mummy culture. And, it's a bit of thing like, I'll have my wine and my dinner. It was nearly like as if it was nearly, like a posh thing to do that. But I then was having probably a bottle of wine every night as time went on. Now, I'm not saying that was in my 20s, but as years went on, I can't tell you exactly when it was, but there was never a night that I wouldn't have had a drink. And then when the children got older, when Emma was a wee bit older, she said to me, Mama, you drink every night. And my friends don't. I would have probably been late 30s, early 40s then. My friends, parents don't drink every night, but I honestly thought it was completely and utterly normal. Now, I knew you liked it, and I would say, but you know what, Emma, you're right, I'll not have any to Wednesday night. So the conversations were being had then. I'll not have any to Wednesday night, and I would wake up Monday morning, and it was always too much over the weekend. I always liked drinking on a Sunday, because Sunday dinner was, everybody's around the table, it was earlier. Like I nearly would have put the potatoes on at 11:30 so I could pour my glass of wine, because that's what you did while you were making your dinner. And Monday morning I would wake up and say, right, on to Wednesday, and then it came maybe to 6 o'clock in the evening, and I was so irritable, Caroline. I really missed it, because for someone that depends on alcohol, the very thought of going through the day knowing that you're going to get that little glass of wine in the evening, that keeps you going all day. And I knew I wasn't going to get that. So I would try it, and I would do it sometimes to the Wednesday. Then the Wednesday would come and I would send Paddy down for a bottle of wine, and he'd run the bath, and he just knew that it contented me. He knew it eased me. He knew it made me happy, So lots of the time he would have went and got the wine for me and run me a nice bath or whatever. And like everything, like everybody I had quite a high pressure job then. I was running a lot of classes for Weight Watchers and talking to a lot of people in a lot of different towns and running men only classes. And, everything was all about, I deserve this because, either you did well, or either you've had a very stressful day, or maybe the children are putting you mad, or somebody said something, but you deserve that glass of wine. So when I reached my 40s, that was when mentally I could not take it anymore. I do believe probably physically I might have been able to go on another wee bit, because I'm very fortunate I didn't lose anything, and the amount of people that lost things. So I'm very, very, very lucky when you were at the stage I was at of drinking. So do you want me to talk about the last year?
I suppose I'm sitting listening to you and I'm thinking, like, everybody that's listening, I think, has alcoholism in their family in some way. and the thought about how destructive it has been, the relationships and things that people have done and all. And like, I don't want to be prying into things that happened to you when you'd have been drinking, but was there a time when it did tear your family apart?
Well, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say tear us apart, but if I had continued drinking, we would have fell apart.
And what was that line of knowing that you were there?
That line was, it was a story basically about Emma going to Australia. So when Emma left and went to Australia, she was only 21, she'd done her degree, and Emma and I were like that. Now, yes, I was fond of alcohol. Nobody thought there was a problem. Emma had words with me about it, but that was it. But I knew I just couldn't stop drinking every night, and I knew there was something maybe there. So when she went to Australia, I broke my heart. I mean, I probably, looking back now, had a nervous breakdown. And that's when the alcohol scaled up. Like, I would say to people, like, you know, yeah, you drink at 7 o'clock with your dinner, and then it comes to 6, and then it becomes 5, and then it becomes 4. And once you keep drinking earlier in the day, and, you know, there's a thing called the morning drink, and not every alcoholic has the morning drink. You know, there's all different types of alcoholics. Like, there's people that binge drink just at weekends, but they're still alcoholic, and they would tell you that. And then there's people like me that drink every day. And it got to the stage that it was getting earlier and earlier and earlier for me. And at my lowest, so this was my breaking point, at my lowest, which would have been, I was 44, and I could not have got out of bed in the morning without I had a bottle at the side of the bed, you know, and underneath the balance sheet between that and the little bedside locker. And I had a glass, because I was a very classy drinker always. I never drank out of the bottle. I drank out of a glass, so I had my nice wee glass there as well. And I had a hid everywhere, Caroline. I had a hid everywhere round the house, because obviously one bottle of wine was never going to do me in a day anymore, because this is to the heights I had taken it. And I'm not joking you when I say I could not, when Paddy got out of the bed at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work, right? And like, the children were, Emma was in Australia, the children were at home, so Shay was doing his A-levels at that stage, and Cleena was 14, you know, so I had a young child. And I could not have lifted my feet out of the bed without steadying myself with that glass of wine. And that was at about 6:15 in the morning, which a lot of people, and I mean, I was the best actress out. I was such a good actress. Like, a lot of people find it very hard to believe, but that was my time for starting my alcohol, 6:15 in the morning. And I had to do that to even be able to breathe, to get the courage to get down my stairs and start my day and make the children's breakfast. And I would have that little half glass of wine. I'd have went downstairs, I'd have got them their breakfast. I was always up first, sorted them out. The house was immaculate, far cleaner than it is now when I'm not drinking. And, you know, they would have left buses and things like that. And then I actually at that point had give up a job, that job that was a fantastic career, because I couldn't be out anymore. I could not be in front of anybody anymore. So I was at home, and I had full permission from myself to be able to drink, you know, whenever I wanted. They would go off to school, and I would stand in the utility room, and I'd be putting the wash on. And honest to God, I believed this. I said, you know what? I bet you there's loads of mommies sitting here at 11 o'clock in the morning having a glass of wine. How the frig could they not? Life is so bloody hard. It is just too hard. And I'm not the only one. As long as I know I'm not the only one, I know I haven't got a problem. Do you know what I mean? And it's just insane. Now, I was getting very, very depressed, obviously, then too. And that's what alcohol does to you. It's a real depressant. And what I did was I spent my time visiting the doctor and visiting the monks and visiting the priest. You know, I so wanted to be better from whatever I had, but never once did I think it was alcohol. You know, that alcohol was causing this depression inside me. And like, nobody really could help me. You know, I was down in Father Martin, and I mean, I have so much respect for him as well. And he would talk away and he'd say, could you not just cut down, Geraldine? And I would say, but I tried to cut, so I did tell him I was drinking too much. And I said, I think maybe, you know, I'm just very down, and that's why I'm drinking. He said, could you not just cut it down a wee bit? And the doctor I did confide in the doctor, and the doctor gave me antidepressants, and they made absolutely no difference. And of course they weren't going to, whenever I was topping up glasses of wine. And it was only ever wine, Caroline. You know, I wasn't.
Was that why was it only ever wine, do you think?
That was my drink.
Okay.
That was my drink. Now, that's not to say that in earlier years I would have had vodka, or there is a very, very funny story about me drinking the whiskey one Christmas in our house. And the whiskey disappeared and Paddy went to make a hot whiskey. And I hate whiskey. That's one thing I never had, but there was nothing left. So I was putting the whiskey in my tea and coffee and everything.
Okay.
You know, in the last kind of Christmas, that last Christmas I was drinking, I was putting the whiskey in my coffee and tea and everything because I couldn't find anything else there and I couldn't drive to go down and get anything. And I was just kept topping out the bottle, and Paddy went to make himself a hot whiskey one night and he says to me, taste that. He says, taste that. There's no taste. And I said, you know, I hate whiskey. I couldn't be tasting that. And there was absolutely, he says, it's water. Somebody has drank my whiskey and watered it down. He says, I know it's not you because you hate whiskey. I said, Jesus, must have been some of them young ones. And like, that was probably the worst thing it did to me because it turned me into a liar. It turned me into the biggest liar. And I don't know what you're like with your kids, but I always, when I was bringing them up from tiny, I said to them, do you know what? There's nothing you will ever do that will ever be bad enough that I will never stand by you. But don't tell lies. Don't have somebody else tell me down the street what you did. Always come to me and always share that. And from they were wee, that's the way they were brought up. I was lying now. Do you know? Like Paddy would have said to me, did you have any wine today? And I would say no, you know. So then that it was kind of all fell apart from the Christmas to the April of that last year.
And what type of person did it make you?
Made
you obviously said about lying, but were you still the Geraldine that?
No.
Like obviously, alcohol changes you, but what type of person was?
All I could describe myself with, because I mean, obviously, I was very confident throughout them years to do the job that I did and everything else as well, and I was like a wee broken bird at home. That's the only way I can describe myself. I cut off all communication. I wanted to speak to nobody. But I had a really good friend circle, which I still have to this day. And everybody thought it was because, and a lot of it was that because Emma was in Australia and she'd left. I mean, it really did completely break my heart. But then the level to what I was drinking, it was definitely the alcoholism, the addiction that was creating all of this. And I cut off myself. I wasn't confident anymore. My hair was a sight. I had no interest in what I wore. I had no interest in putting on makeup. I just hid away. I mean, I would lock the doors when the kids go out to school. And then, you know, they would come in and Paddy would come in from work and I'd be standing, and as I said, the house was clean. I always had a really good dinner made, but I stopped communicating, you know. And I remember one time, and Jesus, it broke my heart. And there's lots of things yet looking back at that just breaks my heart. I'm getting easier and better at talking about them. But Shay was doing his A-levels, as you know, and like he said to me, you know, Mummy, when our Emma went to Australia, you left with her. He says, we don't have a mommy. You know, where's our mommy? And that was a big fella of coming 18 years of age saying that to me at the thing. And I just looked at him and I mean, I just started crying and said, I just can't cope. I just can't cope. But yet I didn't know how much he knew about what I was drinking.
But did he know and he wasn't saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He did know on it.
Because people on the outside do know, don't they? Like, I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. The only one I would have said that didn't really know much about what was going on would have been Cleena. She was only 14, you know. And I don't know how much. She never really discusses it much with me. I do be having in-depth conversations with the other two. Especially Emma, and especially whenever I had got into my first year of sobriety. See, Emma came home for Christmas after a year and a half in Australia, and that was her first Christmas home. My last Christmas drinking, okay? And I ruined Christmas.
Okay. What happened?
I never knew I ruined Christmas. I hadn't a clue I ruined Christmas. It was Christmas Eve, and I had got very drunk, you know. And it got to the stage, like I was saying to you, I could have made a dinner and they could have come in. You wouldn't have known I was drinking, Caroline. I could have had 2 bottles of wine. You wouldn't have known because I was just not communicating. I was very depressed, very weepy all the time, and just wasn't falling over drunk, was none of that. But this particular Christmas Emma came home, she couldn't believe what she was saying. She knew that I liked to drink every day, but she could not believe to the scale that I was drinking. And again, I wasn't aware of it. On Christmas Eve night, I got so drunk that Emma and Paddy had to put me to bed. Emma had to undress me. I don't know if I've shared that actually before. Emma had to undress me and put me into bed on Christmas Eve. And the effect that had on her, I will never, ever know, because I didn't know that happened till I got sober.
Okay.
You know, they didn't say to me the next day. And Emma said she woke up the next day, and remember, she was only home after a year and a half being away. She was only, 23 then. And she woke up on Christmas morning. She couldn't believe it. I'd been up from the crack of dawn, turkey in the oven, everything going. I was looking this $1 million, because this is before I really lost interest, with my hair, everything done, my Christmas outfit on, going, morning, Merry Christmas. And she thought to herself, how can Mommy do that? When I had to put my mother to bed and undress her last night, a child shouldn't have to do that. But she never told me. Paddy never told me. I wasn't aware because I had a blackout. Now, people think that a blackout is whenever you fall, you know, whenever you just like faint or go out or fall asleep, whatever. A blackout isn't that. A blackout is I could be sitting with you and I could have a blackout through alcohol because I don't remember what was said or what was done. And the next morning you wake up and you can't remember anything. So I was having what they call blackout saying. So that was the first thing. And I honestly didn't know that I had ruined Christmas in any way or form until the night before she was going home. And she was going back to Australia, and she was sitting in the sofa. I was beside her. Her daddy was on the other side. She was in the middle. And she said to me, Mommy, I swear, if you don't sort yourself out, I am never coming home again. Now, that to me was like somebody sticking a knife, because Emma was my, you know, I was only 21 when I had her. We just were so, so close. And I still didn't understand what she meant. I knew she meant sort yourself out, not drink as much, but I didn't know how I'd ruin Christmas. And she said, and she was sobbing, Caroline. She was sobbing. And when we got to the airport, again, the site is there as if it was yesterday. We got to the airport and we were giving each other hugs. Bye-bye. That was her first time leaving after the first trip back. And I said to her, I promise. And I was sobbing and she was sobbing. I promise, Emma, I am going to sort myself out. And she just went to see her. It's okay. Shh. You know, she even comforted me whenever she really wanted to get a message through. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And that was just her. She's so beautiful. And she didn't want to leave thinking that, did I think she didn't love me, whatever. She said, it's okay. And when that girl went back to Australia, she had again, I didn't learn that till about a year into my sobriety, till we were making amends and we were talking about things. She had so many nightmares. I mean, she would wake up in the middle of the night, Vinny would have to wake her because she was like crying and having this thing that she was going to get a phone call and I was going to be dead, you know. So she could see it more than anybody could see it, mm-hmm. you know, because she wasn't having those conversations with me. Paddy wasn't having those conversations with me, you know. Life carried on. Like I told her I was going to sort myself out, and I went home and it was myself and her boyfriend's mummy that had left me at the airport. I asked her to stop off in the off licence, a garage. I come out with bread, I pretended it was bread and a big bag with me. 2 bottles of wine. I just drank 2 bottles of wine and went home. You know, because again, Emma's left again. So of course I'm going to be depressed, and that gave me like this sense of leave your mommy alone. She's very, very sad because Emma's away, you know, it's okay, leave your mommy alone. So I was very absent then. And, you know, very absent at the time that Shay was doing his A-levels right up until the April time. So when it came to the last week of my drinking, everybody has a rock bottom. I do believe you have to have your rock bottom. And I reached my rock bottom, and it was a Tuesday. It was a day like every other day, and I was at home, and the kids were at school, Paddy was at work, and I just thought I was going crazy. I was going completely, I felt insane inside my head. Again, I was drinking too much, never blamed the alcohol in this insaneness. And I just thought, and I've been thinking about things for a while, you get to really hate yourself as a person, you know. So if anybody thinks that you don't punish yourself, you cannot live inside your own head, because your head is full of demons at this stage if you get to the level that I was at with my drinking. And again, I was drinking that day as well, but the drink, it's what they call, it doesn't work anymore. So drink stops working. It stops working for everybody if you keep on going. And the drink wasn't working, but my body needed it. So it was this addiction that my body needed to keep. And I wanted more and more because I needed that effect, Caroline. But I wasn't getting the effect. I nothing was giving me that thing. I just was like this here, this constant, this real, you know, and I didn't know what I was searching for whatsoever. And I honestly, a Tuesday morning, sat down and I wrote a letter, and I honestly believed that everybody in my house would be better off without me. I was 100% sure about that. And I thought, and an alcoholic is such a selfish person. So when I was writing my letter, and it was all squiggly, if you had seen the letter afterwards, and Paddy burnt it, but if you had seen the letter afterwards, you could barely make out the writing because I was drinking. So obviously, even though in my head I felt sober, my hands and everything were shaking, obviously, and you know, you could tell the effects of alcohol were there. I wrote a letter and I said on it, I can't believe that I'm not going to, first, I think the first thing was on it, I'm not going to be able to see Emma ever get married, because I knew she would marry Vinny one day. And then I can't believe that I'm not going to, you know, see Shay going to university and we Cleana doing whatever. So things written about everybody, and then Paddy, and then Mummy and Daddy. And everything throughout that letter was all, I can't believe that I'm going to miss this. It wasn't once saying, I can't believe I'm going to do this thing and my children are going to go out to the world and tell people my mother took her own life.
Is that what this letter was?
That's
like
what
you
this
were
letter was.
planning
I
to
was
do?
planning to take my own life, and that was just how low things had got. And I, you know, and it breaks suicide breaks my heart, because I honestly feel that so many people do it when they're under the influence like I was, and that they could be saved, if you understand, because I basically was saved. And I obviously knew that I didn't want to die, but I knew what I was going to do. And I don't want to say that, if that's okay. I don't want to go into the thing that I was going to do.
Right, no.
It was a very quick thing I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I went upstairs and I got a wee thing of rosary beads, and I come downstairs and I rang Paddy and I said, can you please come home? And he went, what's wrong, Pet? What's wrong? I said, please come home. And he came home and he found me the way he found me. I don't know whether anybody will ever get over it, but I was completely and utterly gone, you know. And I was like curdled on the floor with a little prayer book and my wee rosary beads, and I told Paddy what I was about to do, and the evidence was there that I was going to do it. And he just completely and utterly broke down. And he said, I can't cope with this. I don't know what to do. I love you so much and I do not know what to do. And he lifted the phone, there was landlines then, and he rang my parents. Now, my parents hadn't a clue that I had ruined Christmas, that I drank a lot, nothing. Because they just were an ordinary wee couple, and they never, you know, they would never have seen me drinking, really. Oh, maybe on Christmas Day, maybe would have bought a glass of wine down with us, bottle of wine or whatever. So my mother and father I just lay on the floor. I didn't know what was happening. It was really very much a daze. And they arrived up, Mummy and Daddy arrived up to our house. And I can remember Mummy saying to me, she was looking at me on the floor and she just went, I guess here, out of my 5 daughters, you were the one I never worried about. You had it all, you know, because I had the nice clothes and I went on holidays and I'd done all this. She said, never did I worry about you. I worried about the rest, never you. She says, where has this came from? So for them to find that out in that way, it was such a shock, an absolute shock. And it was actually Daddy gave me a number and he said, there's a wee man, and you know, they didn't understand. Even though that one's in their family, they just didn't understand. And we're not that kind of huggy, you know what I mean, that generational thing. And Daddy says, I'm going to give you a number of a man. He would be a very good friend. I've known him for years. And he's an AA, and maybe you'd ring him or whatever. And that was it. And then they left. And all I wanted to do was get down and get more drink. All I wanted to do, I just didn't know. I just want to keep drinking. You can't describe it, but just keep drinking wine or whatever. That was a Tuesday, and I did drink on and not discuss anything. Paddy tried to talk to me, but there was really nothing back from me. And I can remember one of my sisters phoned Emma in Australia and told her what I tried to do, which was awful because she was so far away and there was nothing she could do. Do you know what I mean? It was something I feel that I would have told her, you know, in time, whatever. I just felt that was the wrong thing to do because Emma couldn't, she just couldn't get on a plane, you know, and even if she did, it could have been too late, whatever. But anyway, she did want to come home and stuff, and she wanted to send me to a clinic and different things, but I didn't know any of this was going on at that particular time there. But the one thing that we discussed again afterwards was she rang her daddy and she said, Daddy, how did you not see how low Mommy was getting. And he said, I just couldn't see it. And she was really angry with him. And she said, but you live with Mommy. How did you not see she was drinking to this extent that she would reach this rock bottom, this breakdown, this whatever Mommy had this week? How could you not see that this was about to come? And his words again were, I couldn't see it. And I was a really good actress. Mm-hmm. He knew I was drinking too much.
Yeah.
Of course. So again, that was about the Thursday we got to, and then I always tell the story because I can laugh about it now and there was nothing funny about it, but I was upstairs. The Waynes were in their rooms, whatever, so it wasn't a home. It was a house at that stage. The mummy of the house was gone completely. And I was spending all this time on my own. Friends, nobody knew about this yet, just family. And next the door knocked and I was upstairs and Paddy shouted upstairs, Geraldine, your sisters are here, every friggin' one of them. And next there was all these wee...
Is that 4 sisters?
4 sisters.
Okay. 4
wee heels coming in. And he got me down the stairs. Of course, I didn't want to come downstairs, and I went down the stairs. I'll never forget her. Donna pinned me in the sofa. She said, you'll sit in that sofa and you'll listen to what we have to say. And they had rang Sister Concilios and wanted to put me in there. Emma wanted to put me in summer private. All this was going on. And I was sitting in this daze thinking, what the hell has happened in my life? What has happened in my life? Because I tried to take my own life on the Tuesday and only that I rang Paddy. This is a Thursday and I'm still drinking. Nothing's any better. Why didn't I just do it? What's going on? It just was a complete and utter blur. And, so some of them were lovely, the girls, when they took me outside and they hugged me and said, we're going to look after you, it's going to be okay. Others were really cross with me, that I'd done this and that I'd done this to the family and I'd let Mummy and Daddy see me like this and how could I do this to Emma? And all these words were flying around. And in the middle of that conversation, Shay came up. Shay was upstairs. So Shay came down and he just walked into all my girls and I can remember hearing it faintly, and then of course my sisters and I talk about that night often, and we'd talked about it in detail, and he came down and he just said, yes, you're too late. And Auntie Roisin, who would have been Skidmosh's son, what do you mean? He says, you're too late, you could have helped my Mommy earlier. He says, Mommy's gone now, you can't help Mommy anymore. And again, that broke everybody's heart that night, a big fella that I didn't realise that's how I felt. I was too ill. I'm not making excuses for it, but I was just too far gone, Caroline.
We're just taking a short little break in the Dig podcast to shine a light on our fantastic partner, Linwood's Health Foods.
Small changes every day make the biggest difference to our health. That's why adding Linwood's milled organic flaxseed blends to your breakfast is a simple addition with a big impact. Just 2 dessert spoonfuls packed with plant-based protein, magnesium and omega-3 can help maintain muscle mass, support energy levels and maintain normal cholesterol levels. Linwood's is available in all supermarkets, health food stores and online at linwoodshealthfoods.com. Make a better start every day with Linwood's, proud sponsors of the Dig podcast.
And now back to our guest.
And our Russian tried to say to him, it's okay, look, it's going to be okay. And all I can remember doing was going to bed that night. And I rang Mommy and I said, Mommy, they're talking about putting me away. And if I go away, Mommy, I'll never get better or I'll never come back. Because I said, I'll not be able to see Emma. And at that stage, we FaceTimed every day. I says, you cannot put me away. Because I can't not see Emma. Now, people find that funny and people would say, why Emma and why is it like that? It's because she was away, Caroline. My other 2 children were there. I would see them. They could come visit, whatever it may be, wherever they're going to put me to get me better, whatever was going to happen. But I wouldn't see her because they take your phones and everything away. And Mommy just goes, I'll make you a promise now, nobody's putting you anywhere. You just go to sleep. And we're going to pray for you tonight and you're going to be okay. I know you're going to be okay. And I went to sleep and I woke up the next morning and I went, right, you have 2 choices here. You can drink and die because you can drink and take your own life today. Do it. You have to do it because I cannot go on with the way my head is. Cannot go on with these. It's like a devil possessing you. I can't describe it. The strength, the pull alcohol has on any individual. Or you can ring that man and see, is there any hope? And I come down the stairs, it killed me. And I swear you've no idea, every 15 minutes. And it got quite early. It was still quite early in the morning. I lifted the phone, I rang this number that Daddy had given me. And the most loveliest gentleman answered the phone. And he said to me, I explained to him that I don't know how to do anything without a drink. And I had been drinking 24/7. And of course, he'd been in AA a long time. He knew, what that entailed. And he says to me, you ring me every 15 minutes. And I did that. And then it went every 50 minutes for the first wee while. And then it went every half an hour. And then it went. And I can remember sending Emma a text saying to her, because obviously I told Paddy, and Paddy was sharing with the kids and mummy and sisters and everything what's going on. I didn't know then that he was doing that. And I remember ringing or messaging Emma saying, Emma, I've done 4 hours. Now, even she didn't know that I was drinking that time in the morning. Like, nobody knew until, obviously, the breakdown happened, and I just felt I'd be better off not in this life anymore. So I got to 4 hours, I couldn't believe it. And he had said to me, will you go to a meeting with me tonight? I said, I will go anywhere that can get me better as long as I don't want to stay over. And the meeting was on at whatever, 7:30. And he said, I said, listen, I'm going to drive to Mummy and Daddy's. And he said he'd left me there because he was from a completely other direction. It was handy for him to do that. And she said to me, I'm coming too. And I said, I don't think you'd be allowed to come to a meeting. No, but just to Granny's. And that big fella drove down to Granny's with me. Maybe he drove, actually, had his test then. Yeah, he had. And we got to our house, because I don't even think I could have driven, Caroline, because I was so jittery and shaky and everything else. And this man who I'd never met before, and he would have been in his late 70s, this wee man, or maybe early 80s, lifted me at Mummy and Daddy's and took me to what was this AA meeting. And I went into this meeting and I sat down and I thought, I didn't think, how the hell did I end up here? I just thought, people are smiling here and people are kind of half joking and they're drinking cups of tea. And I just got a bit of hope. I got something in the room that night. When you're first there, they say, do you want to say anything, whatever? And I just rolled my tongue. I said, I need to say something. I said, my name's Geraldine and I am most definitely an alcoholic. It just rolled off my tongue like that. I had no problem saying it. And it just came out. And everybody was really lovely. And I thought, right, okay, I've done this. And I come back up home and I got out of that man's car and shaking out to the front door and come out onto the driveway and give me the big massive hug and said, I am so proud of you, Mummy, for going to that meeting. And all I could think about driving home with him was, how could your son be proud of a mother who's just after telling people, strangers in a room, that she's alcoholic? How? I still don't do that. I still wonder how they can be proud of me, because and that was like, there was a lot of psychological thing that we've been put through there. There's no doubt about it. A lot of worrying as that teenage years, and Emma went through an awful lot in Australia, but they were proud, I don't know how, I don't know why. I've never had it happen to me with my mummy because she didn't drink, but they were so proud from day one. And I swear to you, I don't know when I last had a night's sleep. I hadn't been sleeping really for years. And again, that's, you want to top up more to help you sleep, but just, it's broken sleep. And I'd have been down in the middle of the night and everything, taking a wee glass of wine. I closed my eyes that night, Caroline, and I slept to morning. Whatever that serenity prayer done to me that night, I slept to morning, and I got up and I said to Paddy, I feel a wee bit of hope here. I really feel a wee bit of hope. And I've never touched a drop of alcohol from that day to this, which is 10 years past the 14th of April.
Well, I never got up to hug a guest in the middle, but oh my God. That's
it's, they talk about miracles. And I know that some people never get it. And I know, and that's why, I get angry when people say, and I know I probably shouldn't, but when people say, I just had a wee blip. Because I help a lot of people with their addiction.
Through AA, is it that you
Through
help?
AA, and just through just general being on social media and people reaching out.
Yeah.
It's just a wee blip, because I can tell you now, and I can still say this very strongly, 10 years on, for me to take a sip of alcohol or another drink is for me to die. If I ever lift a glass, I know I will die, because it's even worse now, because I have given so much hope to so many people in my family. Now, if they thought, for the first while, first couple of years, they didn't just trust me right away automatically. you know, they keep an eye on you like a hawk. You know what I mean? And I get that now.
It is the trust, you know, like I'm listening to your story and all these thoughts are going through my head of all the people I know, turning that all, like we all have it, like in our families and stuff. And a way, like, thankfully your family wasn't tore apart, but I know so many families that are. And I'm like, is there a way, like you're saying blips, and I know loads of people that have blips, but is there a way for them? Is there
Some there is. I mean, but I always heard, if they, no matter what I was told in AA, I did it. No matter what I was told, I didn't go and take up a seat and sit there and just listen, you know, and do nothing about it. I done everything that was suggested from word go, because I thought if I don't, I am going to be tempted and take a drink again. I have to do this. That big book was my Bible, and it went everywhere with me. No matter where I went, that big book came with me. It was my thing. And I just knew if I ever took that hope away from the children, ever did that I could not face them ever again, and I definitely would end my life. There's no doubt about it. And I had started, like Caroline, I was sleeping at night. I was eating properly again. You know, in wee stages, like, was it easy? Absolutely not. But it got to a week and I had my hair cut. And then my whites in my eyes were a bit brighter. All these wee signs came every single week. And every day added up to a week, and then a month, and then 3 months. And then, you know, with all our first things, like Easter was very soon then. And what they did for me was, all they wanted was for me to go out and visit Emma for Christmas that year. Because I had ruined the Christmas before, as you know. And myself and wee Cleena, it was a lot of money, and we all couldn't go. And myself and wee Cleena went out to Sydney for our Christmas, because they wanted Emma to see sober mama, basically. And I can remember saying to me, you are like a completely different person. I just can't believe this. And we just kept hugging and doing things and out walking and hiking and everything else. Because I literally was, you know, I can never even say back to myself again, I was better. I was better than I ever was, because of this contentment. And I think for most of my life, you go through searching for things. If you ever notice anybody or worry about somebody that, you know, is drinking a lot, they'll try so many different things. I'd have tried anything just to get my head away from wanting drink. I don't know, I was never satisfied. Never satisfied. I wanted something on to the next one. Well, I had this contentment, I had this peace, and I cannot tell you what peace gave me. And the antidepressants started working, obviously, because I'd been on them, because I wasn't drinking alcohol. So life just got very, very, probably very boring, but very, very nice.
Very nice.
You know, very nice.
What about people that are listening to the podcast? Because there'll be people listening who have a problem with alcohol, if that's the right way to say it. And then there's people listening that are living with someone that has a problem. Like, what's the advice to the people who are struggling with alcohol right now? I know it's a very general thing, but is there one key thing you could tell them to do or to reach out to so that there's a bit of action here?
I never lose hope. If you haven't got that tiny bit of hope in your life, there is nothing worth fighting for. There really isn't. And, you know, as much as my alcohol had got to 24 hours a day, that's how much I was drinking. Like, that is insane. And a lot of alcoholics don't get to that stage, right? But I knew if I didn't stop, that it wasn't that Patty was going to leave me or the children were going to stop. I was going to die. That's where it was going to take my mind. Because alcohol and alcoholism creates coffins. It's as simple as that. If somebody doesn't fall down the stairs and break their neck or whatever, a lot of people don't want to be in this earth anymore. They're ready for the rope, as we call it, you know, and things like that. But lots of people don't, and they do lose. They lose their wife, they lose their home, they lose their jobs, all of those things. I believe all that was waiting for me if I had stayed on that train to go on. I mean, there was no way, if I had kept drinking like that Emma was going to come home, or when she came home, there's no way there was going to be a relationship there, and I could not lose my children. And I know a lot of people have lost their children and they did not want to do that. And sometimes the alcohol is so powerful that it's bigger than you. But you know what? You got to do something to actually get sober. And
what's the first thing you can do?
For me, go to a meeting.
Go to a meeting. Okay, so
and,
Alcoholics Anonymous is not
one of the best organisations in the world, and it's the best therapy, Caroline. People would pay thousands of pounds for therapy. You get AA. I swear to God, and it's nobody talking back to you.
No.
You just get to speak.
Yeah, I've heard so many people. It's like a
You get to speak.
closed community in that respect, as in what happens. They're very respectful that it's all very private. But
Very much so,
I've
yeah.
seen people like who are sponsors and help other people, and I always wonder. That's a very strong. There's something powerful happens in there. Obviously.
Oh, and a lot of the stuff, you know, you don't want to say too much in an AA meeting because you can't trust everybody. There's people in there that don't want to be in there to be sober, and they'll never be sober. Not everybody's good in AA.
Yeah.
But somebody said to me this old man that took me was an absolute gentleman, and he kept me. He said, "You're going to stick with the winners," and I was with him. And there was about 3 other men that were really good friends with him, all older than me. And there was a different car pulling up. I went to AA at least 3 to 5 times a week. And there was a different car pulled up every night to take me to AA. And I said, Paddy, do you never get worried at all these, men? I know they're older men and they're, the families and all. But they were good men, Caroline. And to this day, backbone, of my sobriety. And I said, you never got worried? And he says, I couldn't give a damn. Look, if they can keep you sober, a minibus can come and take you. Yeah. I don't care. He said, because I want you the way you are now, But if you get in with the wrong person, or you don't give your number to anybody, maybe another girl, but you don't give your number to anybody, or, there's that man saved my life because he put me in the right path.
Yes.
There's good meetings and there's bad meetings.
Okay.
There's meetings I went to, I'd say I'll never be back in that room because no.
Yeah. I suppose it's like every kind of organisation
Exactly.
in life, you're always going to find that.
Exactly.
But, thankfully you did. And do you still go to AA, Jenny?
Not as often since lockdown now.
Okay.
But I should. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Because when I do go, I get this great sense of just therapy from it. You know. However, most of us go to AA because we don't want to drink again, and we go there to spend time with other alcoholics and share our thoughts. I work with other alcoholics all the time.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm always in touch with people that's in sobriety a long time as well.
Yes. Talk to us about that.
I haven't walked away from any of that.
Yes.
And the one thing I do want to mention, I don't know how we're doing for time, but what breaks my heart most is the most people that message me on Instagram are children about their mothers. Not about their fathers, about their mothers. And I done a talk when I was in Sydney earlier on this year actually, before I come home in March there. I done a talk on my addiction in Sydney. And I love it. It was just an honour to be at it. And it was full of young people. It was full of Sean's, anyway, I can show the Instagram. But it was full of young people. And I stood up and told my story or whatever. And there was all different people doing their different bits. And there was 5 young people, young Irish people that came up to me and told me, and it was all their mothers back then. It was 5 in one room. And one wee lad, I could not sleep that night because that wee fella broke his heart. He sobbed about his mummy drinking too much at home and he didn't know what to do. And I just thought, if that mummy only knew or could take in that this wee fella is on the other side of the world and he is breaking his heart worrying about her, this isn't right. This isn't, and I gave him a number, he never contacted me.
But do you think that mummy knew, but it was out of her control?
He'd just been home and a bit like Emma on the trip, and he'd seen his mummy in a different light and stuff like that. And I see it from both sides.
I know.
I know that people get angry with him and say, "How can you do?" And I like when I'm working with somebody, and I think, "How can you do this? You're going to lose everything.
How can they?"
And and that's what you deserve. I have tough love with people as well. Because I do think that when I look back on it, it was Emma's tough love that said to me, if you don't sort yourself out, I'm not coming home again.
Yes.
That tough love started the decline as such to the rock bottom. But I don't think the mother would ever know. No, we're not. We're too selfish. We're only thinking about ourselves. And we hate ourselves.
I know.
We're talking to ourselves in the mirror. I wasn't seeing. I would look in the mirror and I would say how much I hated every single part of myself. I was drinking against my will and I didn't know why I was drinking against my will. But I still wouldn't have said to you I'm alcoholic, because I promised myself a few years earlier that I was better than that. And there's no way that alcohol would ever get a hold of me. Absolutely not. It doesn't affect people like me. I felt I was too good. And this is the problem with people when they go to AA. They compare. The amount of people that go home from a meeting and say, oh, Jesus, would I tell you? There was a girl in there and she was talking about, she was, like me say, she was drinking from early in the morning. I never done that. I only drank at night. She automatically was thinking, I'm not as bad as her, so I'm okay.
Yes. Yes,
But
I've
I
heard
just-
that a lot with different
That's
people
where
I
they
know.
go wrong.
Yes.
You have to realise when you're in there, it doesn't matter. You are no better or no worse than the wee person in the cardboard box that can't stop drinking. You are no better or no worse than anybody. Do you know what I mean? You're alcoholic and there's no difference, you know. Whether you still have your job or whether you still have everything I did and you're drinking 24/7, topping up, or whether I used to sit in meetings and fellas would never touch it for 6 weeks. And then they would go on the bench for 3, off for 6. And I was thinking, if I could even have got a day off it, Caroline, I'd have thought it was okay. I couldn't get an hour without a drink. That's the hold it had over me.
Geraldine, I could talk to you all day, but I just want people to know now the impact you're having. So 10 years sober, and with that has come obviously the rise of social media and the ability to be able to connect with people you never would have and make a difference. So you're helping people through your social media by that's where I first heard about you.
Yes.
I
And
never
I probably
forget.
don't talk about it enough.
I know because new people might know what you know, but I remember seeing it and I was thinking, how is Geraldine an alcoholic? I asked her, I was like, how is this woman, because you're so beautiful and vibrant and personable and lovely, and not that alcoholics aren't, but I just never seen that side. But so you do the Monday Club now, and how do you use your channels then to help people?
Right. Now, the Monday Club is not an addiction group.
No, it's not. But is there people there that perhaps...
Maybe.
Okay.
But not, that's a completely different... It wouldn't be the way I'd be working with them in the Monday Club.
Okay.
The Monday Club is very much like, the first thing they will get is an email this morning with their Monday motivation, and then I've like a little mini course for them today, because I'm not obviously at home today. And we meditate together, and we do book club together, and we meet up, and we do just all of those things. And it's where there's a kind of a day set aside that if they have any problems, they can contact me. And indeed, that would be the time if anybody was worried. So for my alcohol, that's very much on my main channel, and I need to probably talk a bit more about it.
Yes.
But it's like everything you're talking about, your life there. And my children, I do everything in the Monday Club, and I'm really me in the Monday Club because, it's people that subscribe to it that are there. Whereas my children are going to hear.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, whenever you heard me in that video, I was 7 years sober before I come out doing that.
Yes.
You have to remember that.
Yes.
I had 7 years under my belt, and everybody was very shocked because it was only a very few, very close friends and family that knew I was alcoholic. Like, there was people that we had went out with for years for dinner, for years, very good friends. They heard through social media.
Yeah.
They didn't hear through me. You know what I mean? And like, Paddy's just a real gentleman. I know you don't think that was.
Well, he lets a few F-bombs out of
him. He does.
On social media.
He wouldn't be telling anybody his business. Do you know what I mean?
I know. He's so
and
good
like,
to you,
I did that, Carly. When I think about it, I did that, and I never told him I was doing that.
Right.
The
ripple effect would have been crazy.
And I should have. But what I did was I discussed it with Emma and Shay, and they had been telling me for about a year, Mummy, you need to use your sobriety. You need to use your voice. You can help so many people. So it was those 2 older children that made me think, right, definitely. And Cleena was only 14, and I just thought, right, I didn't want to do it when she was still at school, because I'd have died if somebody had said, because people are cruel, your mother's an alkie or something.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Even though I had Instagram and all then, and stuff, I just thought she's still at school.
Yeah.
So she was 21 whenever I decided I would tell the world I was alcoholic. And that morning I messaged her and I said, Cleena, Emma and Shay both talked to me about it, but you are very important to me. You were only 14 at the time. Because her words were, whenever it came out and I went to AA, I said, Cleena, I've been to AA. I'm an alcoholic. And she goes, oh, for God's sake, you are such a drama queen. It would only be you would label yourself alcoholic. Don't be stupid. Wouldn't accept it whatsoever. Whether she couldn't see it and thought I was just drinking, couldn't see it. And she said, take it back, and she says, Mommy, go for it. 100% behind you. But I hadn't said to Paddy.
Right.
And Saturday morning, he was away off, whatever, and he came in and I was sitting and I said, what are you at there the day? I just went on to Instagram, told everybody I was an alcoholic. He says, yeah. Going, what? And I said, yeah, I did, Paddy, I did, because I can't help people unless I share it. And he was quite taken aback and quite shocked, but all he said was, you know what, Geraldine, it's your story. It's not mine. I haven't told it. He hadn't even told it to 2 of his best friends. Right. Did not know I was alcoholic. And he said, it's your story and I can't tell your story, only you can tell it, and if you think that's a good way. He always trusted me. He always trusted my instinct. Well, I mean, he never left.
I know.
He never left. And that day that he rang my mummy and daddy, he said to them, I love her so much. He said, and I just want her to be better. Because Mummy always says to me, you don't know the man you have. you know. And it wasn't as if, like, people sometimes think alcoholics are running around, they're out in pubs and having affairs and all that. I would have nearly behaved myself when I went out.
Yeah.
You know, in the last bit. I was never out.
Yeah.
I was hiding inside the house, as I say, this wee broken soul that didn't know how to cope with the outside world.
There's a book in you. Are you writing a book? Are you going to
I'm actually in the middle of a book at the minute. Second book on addiction.
Honestly, though, you know, like, because this isn't long enough, and I feel bad, like, wrapping it up, because I hope that there's someone listening that gets something. There will be, that perhaps turns to someone, admits that things are bad, because that's why we're doing the podcast. Is real lives, real moments, and for you to share all of that, I know it's going to help somebody.
And can I just say, sorry, Caroline, do tell anybody watching it, please, if you have my number, and if somebody wants to contact you and reach out to me on that personal level, I would help anyone. Anyone. The only thing I say is, don't ring me when you're drinking or when you're drunk, because there's just no point.
Okay.
You know?
How unbelievable for you to offer that out now. This is going out to thousands and thousands of people.
I know.
So, you know, if you're inundated, and hopefully you never know when you're going to be able to help, even people listening, but the fact you're going to do that. So anybody that is listening, Geraldine and I are in contact. You can definitely reach out to us. We're also going to put in the show notes, like, how to get in touch with Alcoholic Anonymous.
Brilliant.
And any other support groups that you think that we should list in the show notes, Geraldine, we'll put them there.
Okay.
Your Instagram handle is going to be there. People don't want to message me, and they can message you on Instagram for that. Lynn Woods, our sponsor, and as you met the lovely founder, John, there earlier. And they want to make sure, you know, that people are sharing their real lives and their real stories, but also they're also interested to know how people are looking after themselves. So how do you look after yourself now? We obviously know that you're very, you know, you do your meditation and your Monday clubs, your community. Is there anything else you do to look after yourself? I look after
my mind, and Lynn would be a big thing in our house anyway, you know, would have it over her porridges and yogurts and things like that as well. And I get so worried about not looking after my mind. I put it first every single morning I wake up. I can't get out of bed. The first thing I do is write, Geraldine, straight in your head, what way do you want today to go? What way do you want your thoughts to be? Don't crash into the day, don't crash into the world. And instead of lying there like I used to, go and get the drink before you get your feet out of bed, I lie there and go, what day is it? What way do you want the day to go, Geraldine? It's not just about talking to yourself, it's about listening to the right stuff. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I talk positively and I listen to it. And that's, mind you, there's many a day's a bad day, Caroline. Okay, and then I get on wee Monday club and I try and get them all motivated and up and about and stuff as well. Not every morning, but Mondays would be very much for that as well. Love being out walking my wee dogs. You know, I don't not run to gyms or anything like that. But, you know, life's precious, and I just feel that I, you know, really got a second massive chance at it in my mid-40s. Now, in coming 55, I just feel, and there's so much more to do.
So much more.
You know, and yeah, I just never, ever, ever think you can't do it. Anybody who's drinking, and, you know, anybody who has a loved one that they're giving up on, please don't give up on them, because there's always hope.
There's always hope, I know.
Always.
Such an emotional topic, such an important topic, and it's so brave of you to come
on. Kept it together.
I know, because is it selfish to put yourself in that? But I'm thinking of all the people I know that are going through that there, you know, and it is emotional, but it's also real life. And it's the thing that we're battling with. But thank you for being a guest on the Dig podcast. And maybe we'll revisit and you'll come back again when we do another series, because there's so much more we can talk about, you know, what life looks like now.
Yeah, more in the recovery end of it as well. Yeah,
yes, because there's, you know, there. But thank you for joining us. As I said, all the notes will be in the show notes of people you can contact. I always do podcasts about business and growth and experts. This is actually very different for me too, but it's important, and I've learned that through all the people I've interviewed, that no matter what your job is, or no matter how important your role is, actually your life that's happening at home dictates everything else. So that's why this series is so important. Thank you for being on the Dig podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Caroline, and thanks everybody. Thank you.